In a world where pain and loneliness often go unseen, animals remind us of something powerful: that love, loyalty, and courage can come from the most unexpected places. The first rays of dawn stretched across the African horizon, painting the savanna in hues of amber and gold. The air was cool, crisp, carrying with it the songs of birds greeting the morning. The endless plains shimmered like an ocean of grass, waving gently in the wind. To some it might have looked like paradise, but for the rangers who patrolled these lands, paradise was always fragile, always one heartbeat away from danger. On this particular morning, two rangers set out from their small outpost, a man named Daniel and a woman named Marissa. Their jeep was packed with gear: medical kits, ropes, tranquilizer rifles, bandages, even a small handsaw. Each item carried its own weight, but it was the invisible weight on their shoulders that pressed hardest: the responsibility of protecting life, both animal and human, across this vast wilderness. Daniel was tall and broad, with lines etched deep into his face from years under the sun. Marissa, younger but no less experienced, carried a leather notebook tucked into her pack, filled with records of rescues, dates, times, the fates of animals they had tried to save. Both had seen enough death to know that in the wild, survival was never guaranteed. The savanna seemed calm, but calmness was always deceptive. The rustling grass could hide predators. The silence could mask pain. As the jeep bounced along a dusty red road, they spoke little. Their eyes scanned the horizon, ever watchful. Herds of zebra moved in the distance, their stripes shimmering in the rising light. Antelope darted between acacia trees. Life seemed abundant, but Daniel knew better than to relax. Hours passed before they noticed something unusual. Near a lone tree, far from any pride or herd, a lion stood still as stone. His golden mane was tangled, his body gaunt. He did not pace, he did not roar. He simply stood, frozen, as if the world had turned him into a statue. Marissa's breath caught in her throat. "Something's wrong," she whispered. They slowed the jeep, creeping closer. As the distance closed, the truth struck them with horror. The lion's neck was wedged between two heavy branches of the tree, trapped like a vice. The bark had cut deep into his flesh, leaving raw, swollen wounds that oozed thick, foul-smelling pus. His ribs jutted out from his sides. His eyes were shut. His breathing was shallow, each rasp a struggle. Daniel cursed under his breath. "He's been here for days." Marissa felt her chest tighten. The thought of this magnificent creature, once a king of the grasslands, reduced to this pitiful state, was almost unbearable. She could see where the lion had fought, rubbing and straining against the tree, tearing his own flesh in desperation until his strength failed him. Now he was little more than skin and bone, standing only because the branches held him upright. They locked eyes, a silent conversation passing between them. There was no backup, no time to call for help. They were 2 days from the nearest station. It was up to them. Marissa steadied her hands as she pulled out the tranquilizer rifle. "It's the only way we can work safely." Daniel nodded. His own hands gripped the saw tightly, sweat already breaking across his brow. Marissa raised the rifle, whispered a prayer, and fired. The dart struck the lion's flank. He flinched weakly, then slumped forward, body collapsing in slow motion to the ground. Daniel ran forward, dropping to his knees. He pressed the saw against the branch and began cutting. Each stroke echoed like thunder, the rasp of blade against wood filling the silence. Sweat poured down his face, dripping into the dust. His arms ached, but he didn't stop. The tree groaned under the pressure until finally, crack. The branch split. The lion's neck fell free. They eased his massive body onto the ground. Marissa knelt beside him, opening the medical kit with trembling hands. The wound was horrific, swollen, raw, Infected, she poured antiseptic into the gash, the liquid foaming as it met pus and blood. The smell was overwhelming, but she didn't flinch. She cleaned, wrapped, injected antibiotics, whispering softly all the while. Daniel wiped his forehead, his heart pounding. He had seen death before, but this felt different. This wasn't just an animal, this was a king, brought low, and if they failed, they would lose more than a life. They would lose something sacred. Together they heaved the lion onto a stretcher, straining under his weight. Muscles burning, they slid him into the jeep and secured him with ropes. Daniel climbed into the driver's seat. Marissa knelt beside the lion, her hand on his chest, counting each shallow breath. The journey began. The road was cruel, rutted, rocky, each bump a jolt that made the lion twitch. Marissa dripped water onto his lips, whispering encouragement. At night, they set up camp by the roadside, fires flickering against the endless dark. The lion lay in his cage, twitching, his breath so weak it seemed like it might stop at any moment. They barely spoke. Words felt too fragile. Instead, they sat in silence, listening to the rise and fall of his chest, praying each breath would not be his last. On the second morning, hope flickered. The lion opened his eyes briefly. His tongue flicked out, catching a drop of water. Later, he chewed weakly on a strip of dried meat. Relief flooded them both. "See?" Marissa whispered. "He's still fighting." 2 days later, the station appeared on the horizon. They drove straight into the clinic, where veterinarians were waiting. The lion was rushed into surgery, placed under deep anesthesia. Hours of work followed, cutting away dead tissue, draining infection, stitching torn flesh inch by inch. IV fluids dripped life back into his veins. The room smelled of antiseptic and blood. Daniel and Marissa waited outside, pacing like anxious parents. Finally, the surgeon emerged, exhaustion etched across his face. "He has a chance," he said, "a real chance." The next day the lion stirred. His eyes opened slowly, blinking against the light. He licked his lips, then tore into a piece of fresh meat with weak but steady jaws. The rangers stood by his cage, tears in their eyes. After days of fear, they were seeing hope take root. The days turned into a week. Slowly, strength returned. The lion rose to his feet, stumbled, then steadied. Each day he walked a little farther. New fur grew over the scars. His mane, once dull and tangled, began to shine again. Whenever he saw Daniel and Marissa, he would approach the bars, letting out a low growl, not of warning but of recognition. A greeting, a thank you. 10 days after his rescue, the time came. The jeep rolled once more into the savannah, golden grass stretching endlessly before them. The cage door opened. Slowly the lion stepped out. His paws sank into the earth. He stood tall, mane glinting under the sun. He inhaled deeply, the wind carrying scents of freedom and life. Then he turned. His amber eyes locked onto Daniel and Marissa. In that gaze was a message no human language could capture. Gratitude, trust, a bond forged in pain and struggle. Then he turned away, walking toward the horizon. His body, once frail and broken, now moved with power and grace. His mane shimmered as he disappeared into the golden sea of grass, merging with the wild where he belonged. Daniel and Marissa stood silently, hearts heavy with awe. They had not just saved a life, they had restored a king to his kingdom. And as they turned back toward the station, they knew they would carry this memory forever. The day they gave life back to the king of the grassland. This story is more than just about survival. It's about the unbreakable bond between humans and animals, and how sometimes they don't just share our lives, they save them.